As you spend more and more time in isolation, time begins to lose meaning. Every moment the same, but a moment still, both ephemeral and not. You leave your bed at some point, you make coffee, you take your medication, you read, you write, you start yet another art project that you'll slide back into the dresser drawer with the dozens of others. For me, this disruption of time, this collapse in extension, is amplified by the ocean of medications that modulate my emotions. Mood stabilizers, antipsychotics, and benzodiazepines, lamotrigine and lithium, Seroquel, lorazepam, and Klonopin. These constitute my I as I experience it, flat and endless, never high nor low. Every day is experienced the same, regardless of what happens in ordinary life. In isolation, the monotony can be unbearable. Days broken by meals, by cleaning, little else. I never know how I'm doing, how I'm really doing, beneath the medication. For most, that would not matter. For a person in recovery, this is dangerous. When you relapse, you are blindsided because you never knew something was wrong. My only safeguard for this disconnect between mood and psychospiritual wellness is psilocybin mushrooms. In the thick of a pandemic, this practice also functions to reconstitute my experience of time as I know time to be, to take notice of all the little variants in my days that make them unique, to shed drudging monotony in favor of interest and even excitement. You meditate for as long as you can before ingesting 3 to 5 grams of psilocybin mushrooms, often not very long. You return to meditation and contemplation, that old and mostly dead sense of the word. You contemplate what may rise, conflict both in and external, your relationships with tattered loose ends, shards of childhood and adolescent abuse that you may not have completely come to terms with. You do this until the anxiety and physical discomfort of the first hour is shed and your environment begins to collapse into itself. Then you turn off the lights and emancipate your mind from the trappings of constructed psychology. Sometimes when sent on a particularly harrowing thought path, you turn the lamp on and write things like, "She writes do less, peering out of frame. A boy sits over her, sparking his vice. He wears a heavy sweater over PJ bottoms and it is night. You are like cocaine to me," and the bubbles to his right. A Buddha statue adorned with a rosary holds a brush and weed and shiny things. I ask myself who holds the most power in the room. I don't believe it is the boy or the girl, but the dead boy behind the camera. Or, I bleed coke and speed under a blacklight sun. Or, he said, let's ramble till we sleep and swallow heaps of bitter ketamine kisses. Or, thank you for and I did because I are Greek, no more you know when my whiskey had more nonsense, penny pence, black, blue, red, and a black light phantom. Sometimes your writing doesn't make sense. You go back to your meditation, and if you're doing well, over the next hour you ascend to a self-constructed God consciousness, a sense of omniscience visually rendered. You explore the aesthetics of God consciousness, and you could not say your name even if you had the ability to speak. The change comes the next morning. Regardless of how it went, whether I learned I need to make a change immediately, or that I'm on a well-paved path, when I open my eyes, my world feels renewed, time reconstructed as I know time to be. When you go outside, you don't just smell the flowers, but you stand and see how the plants still breathe when the wind is still. You watch the rain fall and you watch the second sunrise when it yields. You learn to appreciate the blue haze of pre-dawn light when some forgotten nightmare wakes you in the early hours of morning. Every moment ephemeral, but you stand to bear witness. You watch the plants breathe.